Welcome everyone to another video in this SQL with Rockwell PLC video series. As I mentioned in my last video in there, where we demonstrated how we can essentially delete records from our SQL table directly from the Rockwell PLC. In this video, and as the title suggests, we will demonstrate and explore how we can run essentially any SQL query from our Rockwell PLC and look at the results back in our PLC. So let's start. Now this time, and to speed up the video as well, I already went ahead and imported the routine I need for the SQL custom. So as you can see here, I already have the routine here, and I already have the new add-on instruction that we added to this library. So, and in the same way, we already added the instructions we needed. So we added this for this first rung in here, and then in the same way we added this normally open contact for the communication error to this rung as well. So in case of communication errors or interruptions and so forth, the operation can resume once that problem is cleared. Okay, so let's have a look at our new routine here. So as we can see here, this add-on instructions has the same look and feel. It's very similar to the the SQL select add-on instructions in terms of what it looks like. So we have here the query done bits, the response to large bits, the error and communication error statuses that we can use, and we also have the SQL response. So in the SQL select, we had in here, it says SQL table, because the results will be basically processed and pushed into a table like we saw in that video. But in here we are going to just essentially provide you with the raw data coming from the query that you run against the SQL Server. So let's open up the add-on instruction and see how all that works and what we need to do to get this going. So if I go here, again, the same parameter SQL, this time is custom config. So we will see here there's only one parameter that we need to configure, and that is your custom query that you want to put in here. So really there isn't much to configure other than just put your query in here, and then we can run it and look at the results and so forth. So what I'd like to do is first just to give you a feeling of what this can do for us. I'm gonna jump to the SQL Server management just to give you an idea of the database and what's going on in there. So the database we have is this one in here, LogixDB, and then we just have this one table here just for demonstration. So if I open up this table here just to see the data in there, I think we have like over 2,500. Yeah, so we have 2763 records in this table. And then what I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to insert into this table a new records, and then after that we're going to try to run another query, like a select query, to see what kind of data we're going to get and so forth. So to do that, I mean, I can simply, for the insert, I can go here and just grab the default syntax for an insert, for example. So I can grab just this section here for the insert, and I go back to my PLC, and now of course this is just demonstration, and if you are only, if you just need to do just an insert to log some data, obviously you can use just the SQL insert, which already designed to do that, but I just want to give you a feeling of what this can do for us. So I'm just gonna put this in one line. We don't need all these spaces, so I'm just gonna massage it a little bit here, and I'll show you here in a few seconds how this will work for us. So okay, so we don't need any of these. Now in the values, I'm gonna put so for the timestamp 2020 dash let's put June for example 20th, and then I'm just gonna put the times like 1400 for example, and put another quote in here and another comma, and then for the label I'm gonna put like tag 1, and because it's a string I have to put it between these two quotes, and then same deal for the description. I'm just gonna put PLC test for example, and then for our value I'm gonna put 5000 for example, and then for our status I'm just gonna put 0, so it's false, and then I'm gonna close that bracket. So that's my query. It's all good. I'm gonna hit apply. Okay, so that's about the settings we have to do in here, and then after that I'm gonna hit OK. And again, as we were doing in all the previous videos, we're gonna bring Wireshark so we can see what's will be happening behind the scenes. Now the other thing I want to bring your attention to, so right now we have, I'm going to re-execute this. Okay, so we have 2763, so just remember that number, because once we start to run this need to start to increase, and then we should see the new records. Okay, so I'm going to bring Wireshark, and I'm going to toggle this. So as you can see here, right away it starts to log the data for us very, very quickly, because in the interval here in the interval it's set to 0, and what that means is just go as fast as you can. So probably in real life scenario you probably don't want to go that fast, just so you're not bugging the network that much, but for our demonstration it's fine. Now let's have a look at one of the responses here. So what we can see here is the length of this packet is 21 bytes. Now this 21 bytes, if we look at this tabular data stream, it started from here, from 04, and it ends up in here. So if we count from here to here, you're going to find 21 bytes. And then the rows affected is 1, because we're inserting one row at the time, obviously. Now the same information, if you open up your add-on instruction, you will find that under the SQL response. Now as you can see here, the rows count is 1 and your bytes count is 21, exactly what you've got here. And then furthermore, you have also the bytes that we have here for this data stream. So if you look at this byte I just highlighted here in blue, compare them with this. You can stop the video if you want. Just keep in mind that the ones in the add-on instruction are in decimal, and the ones in Wireshark, they are in hex. So that's the only difference. So as you will see here, they're identical. And that way, you know, if you're familiar with the tabular data stream protocol, the TDS, then you can, you know, interpret these bytes in your program and use them, you know, as you need to. Now, if we go now to the SQL in here and rerun the query, we can see now, this is increased to 3,327. And if we go here to the bottom, we will find that our records, they are right, you know, some of them they are right there. So here's tag 1, the value 5,000, and the size is false, and so forth. So it was just as simple as that to do, you know, a custom query, run it against your SQL, get some feedback to your PLC, and so forth. So now let's change a little bit the query. So instead of an insert, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a select query instead of an insert. So if I go back in here and simply do select, I want to read everything from my table, the I log, and hit OK. So as you can see now, we're getting a different response, and that's just for the fact that we are reading over 3,000 rows from the SQL. Now if you notice here, I also add this wrong. There we go. So to indicate that we have a response that is too large. Now in that scenario, what we will get as a response is essentially the size of the last packet, and also the number of rows that has been affected, and the byte from the last packet that we read in the PLC. So just to show you here, so this will be the last packet in this previous request in here. As you can see here, there's another request just after that. So if we look at that packet, we're going to see here that the length is 2,461. Now if I open up my add-on instruction, we're going to find out in the SQL response that indeed that's the same number I have in here, 2,461. And then the number of the rows that has been coming back is 3,628, which is the same number that I have in here. And that will be the same way if I came here, for example, and let's say I just get rid of this and do the same query, for example, then we should get the same result. So if I execute this, as you can see here, here is 3,628 rows right there, and that's the same what we are seeing in this in the PLC as well. But because the the size of the response is really larger than 4,096 bytes, which what this data in here is capable of, if we expand this a little bit, we can see we're only limited to basically 4,096 bytes. We are only able to give you the last packet bytes and the number of rows in here in this response. So in scenarios like this, you probably want to change a little bit your query so you can request only data within that 4096 to manipulate it and so forth, and then read again the other set of data and so forth. So that's essentially just a little bit how the SQL custom add-on instruction works, and how you can run in theory any query against your SQL server and get some feedback. So I hope you enjoyed the content, and this will conclude phase 1 of this video series. And in phase 2, we're gonna do some more fun stuff, where we're gonna see how we can log into multiple SQL servers, for example, from our PLC, do multiple tasks, like log data, retrieve data, all at the same time or in sequence. So there'll be lots of basically exercises that we're going to be going through and exploring and demonstrating, and just to show some of the capabilities, what you can do with this library. Again, thank you for watching.